Good morning, everybody. Mike Niemiec here with some early morning grain and oilseed comments on this Tuesday, January 29th. On the overnight trade, we've got the grain markets a little bit firmer, wheat and corn steady to maybe up around 1 cent, but the bean market a little bit on the defensive, down 2 to 3 cents. The meal market's unchanged. It has been unchanged here of late as far as the trend goes versus what the soybean oil has been seeing, almost on a 2-cent rally, but it's off a little bit in the overnight trade, down around 20 points, and it may be taking a little bit of breather. It's been going kind of hand in hand with the strength in the Malaysian palm oil market, and it was weaker as well on position evening, so maybe a little bit of a hiatus from the run in the soybean oil market that we have been seeing. But in general, if you go and look at the charts, corn, wheat, and soybeans, we're still generally tracking sideways for quite a period of time, and the trade has been somewhat anticipatory this week that we'd get some type of volatility in these ranges to maybe perhaps break out on the heels of three things, namely the USDA and the U.S. government's back at work, and we're going to try and play catch up with all the reports that we have not seen, not to mention leading into a week from Friday's annual report that will be revisited that we didn't get in January, so that's going to be a coming event. Not to mention the weekly releases of export sales, things of that nature, any announcements, so we're on a waiting list for that. The other thing has been the trade talks with the Chinese and the U.S. will be occurring this week, starting tomorrow. A little bit of a wrinkle again with the tech giant in China getting indicted by the U.S. as far as technology and stealing goes, and that's the big talking point as far as the trade talks between the U.S. and the Chinese. Chinese will probably buy beans that'll probably go into storage, which they don't need basically at this time, or they have a cheaper supplier in South America. It's the structural issues that is the sticking point between the U.S. and the Chinese. We'll see how that pans on out. And then thirdly, we'll still continue to monitor what's going on with South America as far as their production goes going forward in here. I have to say you see a lot of people on the wires trying to downsize the crop from initial projections, most notably in the beans right now, and people are starting to shave down a little bit for the Argentinian bean and corn crop. But if you look at all three of them, the trade's keeping an optimistic view, but it hasn't broken us out of this trading range that we are currently in. The other thing that'll probably be of interest, we haven't had any commitment of treasury reports for roughly a month, and obviously it's always nice to know perhaps where the trade is sitting as we await with these developments this week. And we still kind of surmise that overall the trade is pretty much net even in the soft red winter wheat, in the beans, and in the meal. Have somewhat of a noticeable large position in the corn, net long, and seemingly perhaps coming out of some of their noticeable net short positions in the soybean oil. So overall, we're still kind of sitting back, seemingly waiting to see flashes on the wires as far as what these events are going to lead us to. Overall, in the bigger scheme of things, personally still doesn't feel like we're running out of grains and or oil seeds. We need somewhat of a bigger supply scare perhaps to take us on a run to the upside. The downside will probably continue to be supported by demand and the trade not having much of a big position. So overall, not even knowing what these results are going to be, I have to say that spikes and up or down in the markets will be somewhat short-lived, and perhaps we're still just going to continue to go and stay somewhat in a sideways pattern, perhaps as we work our way not only to the USDA report next week, but perhaps all the way until prospective plantings from the U.S. Once again, these are my opinions, not that of ADM or ADMIS. Thank you.